what would you say is the most annoying health issue you used to have?
Oh, jeez, it's got to be the IBS. It's got to be gas and bloating. Just imagine you're sitting down, and let's say I'm talking to patients in the office all day, and then I have a lot of gas, but I have 4 hours straight where I don't have time. So imagine you have to hold it in, and in the meantime, work throughout that time. It's very uncomfortable. But I would say the biggest difference maker.
Hello, my name is Mr. Eggman. I'm a content creator. Thank you so much for watching. Today, we have a very special guest, all the way from Los Angeles. He is Dr. Sam Hai, and he has quite a story to share with us. So, Dr. Sam Hai, welcome to my interview.
Thank you, Mr. Eggman. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you. It's an honor, and let's let the people let's give them what they want to hear.
So, can you tell everyone if you already ate anything today?
You know, today is one of those days where I haven't. So I usually eat either one meal a day or 2 meals a day. It just depends on if I'm hungry. So I'm relying on my body to give me signals. If I'm not hungry, why should I eat? That's the question I would ask. So there's some
Good
days
point.
where I just don't feel hungry until 4 or 5 in the afternoon. And today's one of those days. Right now where I'm at, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and so I won't eat till maybe a couple more hours.
Because you mentioned the time where you're at, so I want to tell people that it's 6 a.m. where I'm at.
I
So,
understand.
do you think you will only eat one meal for today?
Yes.
And what do you think you will eat?
I'm going to have some beef ribs, and I will also make some eggs, cook that in butter, and I will probably make some bacon too. So it's a big meal, but that's what I'm thinking right now. Of course, that can change.
Nice. What have you been eating recently?
Pretty much what I just described. Most of what I eat is beef. I eat a lot of beef. I would say my diet is about 70% beef, and then I'll eat five, six, sometimes 7 or 8 eggs with that meal, and then I'll add in other cuts of meat. So for beef, I like to eat ribeye steak. That's delicious. I like ground beef. I like beef ribs. I like short ribs. I like chuck roast. There's a lot of different cuts of beef, so that gives me a lot of variety. And then I'll add in other cuts like pork. I like pork belly. I like pork chops, different cuts of pork, bacon. And then I like to also eat some chicken. I'm not a big fan of chicken. I used to love eating chicken breast, but since I've been carnivore, chicken just doesn't appeal to me like it used to. But when I do eat chicken, I'll eat some chicken wings, of course, with the skin on, because chicken's a very lean meat, and it's juicier, it tastes better, it's more fulfilling when you have the skin, and I love the chicken wings. And I might have a lamb chop here and there. I might eat some seafood, some fish, shellfish, but for the most part, my majority of my diet is beef.
Do you eat any plants at all?
No plants. When I do, my body tells me stop. It gives me feedback, usually very immediately. Now, I've been eating this way for over 3.5 years, and I've been able to get rid of many different health issues, and one of them is arthritis. I had arthritis in both of my knees in my 40s. Right now, I'm 51 years old, and for me, I love hiking. I like going on mountains and hiking. And in my 40s, I couldn't do that anymore because the arthritis would make me stop every 5 minutes because the pain was so excruciating. So when I went carnivore, that arthritis disappeared. And in the past 3.5 plus years, I try to introduce plants back into my diet. And then either hours later or the next day, I start feeling arthritis in my knees. So my body's telling me, stop eating these plants. So for me, I can't eat plants. Now, obviously, doesn't apply to everybody. There's some people who are fine who can eat some plants, but as you probably know, and I'm sure you tell from some of your content, you let viewers know that plants, they have toxins, right? Plants are not like animals; they can't run away from people who are trying to eat them. They have chemical defenses. They'll release chemicals like lectins, phytates, oxalates, and our body reacts not in a good way to these chemical defenses. And in my case, I get arthritis. Some people have skin issues. Some people have other different joint issues. Can cause a lot of gut issues. That's very common. So these plants are not harmless.
So, Dr. Sam, let me ask you this: what are some plants you have introduced over the years?
Yeah. So before I was carnivore, I ate a lot of plants because that's what we're told to do, right? Eat a lot of plants, eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruits. That's what I did for most of my life. In the past 3.5 years, almost no plants, but I experimented by reintroducing it to see how my body would react. So I would say about a year into being carnivore, I reintroduced broccoli.
Oh.
Big mistake. My body does not like broccoli. And I knew that intuitively because as a kid, I never liked broccoli. But of course, my parents would force me to eat it, and I would have to eat it. Because you want to be a good kid, you want to please your parents, and you believe that if you eat it, it's good for you and it's healthy. And I followed the line, but when I reintroduced it, my body told me no. I've also reintroduced spinach, and again, my body told me no. I started having some gut issues. I had some bloating, some gas, and I think it was some mild diarrhea. But that was my body telling me, stay away from spinach.
I wonder why did you even want to introduce them back again? Because
I just
those
want
are
to
not
see.
delicious.
I, they're not. The thing is, after you eat these vegetables for such a long period of time, you actually think it's not bad, right? You get used to it. It's an acquired taste. But as a kid, when my parents kind of forced me to eat vegetables, I was like, I just didn't want to.
Mm.
But as an adult, as you start, I was eating a lot of salads. I was eating all types of different vegetables, and it kind of didn't taste bad. And then you kind of like, okay, it's good. I think it's like, I think it's like drinking beer. I don't know if you drank beer before, but my first taste of beer was yuck. This is nasty. But then when you drink more of it, you kind of develop a taste for it, and you're like, okay, this actually tastes good. Of course, it's not something I drink now.
Nice. Yeah, I've definitely heard many people say they got themselves able to like vegetables.
Yes, I think it's kind of like I said, acquired taste, and when you eat that so many times over so many years, after a while, your brain thinks, hey, this is actually tastes good, but inside you don't feel good.
Mm. So for those that are listening, actually recently I just joined Dr. Sanhai's interview. And in that interview, I asked him about his background. So I already know about it, but I guess some of the listeners will want to know. So, Dr. Sanhai, can you tell people kind of where you grew up in, stuff like that?
Yeah, so I was born in Vietnam in the 1970s. My parents were both Chinese, and we left that country when I was still a baby. So I was not even 1 years old. I grew up in America, basically California for the most part. So I grew up there speaking English, and my Chinese is terrible, which really is an embarrassment to my parents. I understand some Chinese, Cantonese, and Mandarin, but it's nothing to brag about or be proud about.
And right now you are living in Los Angeles, right?
Actually, I live in Las Vegas right now.
Oh, dang it. Did I make the wrong intro?
You did. I didn't want to correct
Oh,
you mid sentence, but that's okay. I um, I grew up in LA though. I grew up in Los Angeles, and I lived there for quite a bit. But currently, I'm living in Las Vegas.
Okay, sounds good. So I guess that's the talking point of this interview. I made a mistake in the beginning. I'll correct that somewhere else. I'm sorry.
No problem.
So I'm curious, was learning English hard for you at all, given that your parents are from China?
Learning English was very
Yes.
easy because I grew up in that country. I wasn't even walking when I was in that country.
Okay.
Obviously, I heard Chinese from my parents and my family, but from everywhere else in school, outside of the house, everybody spoke English. So English was very easy for me. It's obviously easier for me than it's like my first language. I identify as Chinese, and but I also identify as American. So I'm kind of a mix of both. But English is just the language I speak because that's what I've been speaking my entire life.
Hmm. So this is a little off topic, but what do you think it's like growing up in the States as an Asian?
As an Asian.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I grew up in, I would say, the 80s and 90s, right? And that's a different time period than it is now. Things are a lot different now. But when I grew up during that time, um, the area I grew up around, there were some Asians, but I grew up mostly in a Hispanic neighborhood. I grew up in East LA. And it was a little tough because not that there was what I would call racism, but the Hispanics, they tend to stick with themselves, and the Asians, they stuck with themselves. And there were some gangs. It was a rough area. Obviously, my parents didn't have any money. We didn't grow up with money. But after growing up there was tough just because it was a new culture for me, new culture for my family, adjusting to different foods. The language was easy for me, but obviously not easy for my parents and my immediate family. So I would say it's tough, just as for any immigrant family that goes to a new country. There's a lot of things you have to adapt to, right? So it was definitely not an easy path.
Hmm. I see. Thank you for sharing that. So, is there any other basic information about yourself you would like people to know?
Other basic information. So before I became a medical doctor, I was actually a chiropractor for 6 years. That's what I did before I went to medical school. And then I did a residency in internal medicine. So I think the foundation that I set by being a chiropractor was very helpful for me. I don't know if there's a lot of chiropractors in Taiwan. I don't know if is that a profession that is known in your country?
I know about this vocabulary, but I'm
You
not
know about it?
exactly
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Maybe I'll give just a brief summary of chiropractic. Chiropractic is, they're also considered a doctor. It's a doctorate degree. And basically, they don't prescribe medications. They treat musculoskeletal conditions. They use a technique called an adjustment where they can manipulate your spine. There's different philosophies within chiropractic, but it's considered kind of a natural alternative healthcare. It's not in the same model as medicine is. Medicine is considered allopathic. Chiropractic is, I guess you could say, non-mainstream. It's alternative. They don't prescribe medications. They use their hands to treat patients, if that makes sense. But
Mm.
I was a chiropractor for 6 years, and then I wanted to do more. And I thought, medicine was the way to get me there. It would allow me to learn more because not that medicine is the panacea for all diseases, because it's not. And what I found is that it really is not. Okay, you don't cure somebody, you don't reverse disease simply by diagnosing someone and giving them a medication. What you're doing is managing that chronic disease. Are you actually helping that patient? Not really, because you're actually doing them a disservice. What you're doing is prolonging their suffering, when in fact, you could actually make a huge difference if you just tell them to change their diet. For example, a type 2 diabetic, how does medicine manage that? You get prescribed medications, it gets worse year after year. Eventually, they'll require insulin. And then, with diabetes, you have all sorts of complications, right? People can lose their limbs, they can lose their eyesight, they have kidney disease, all sorts of different complications that are very devastating. That's what medicine does. That's how it manages diabetes. It never reverses diabetes. Now, I'm talking about type 2. Now, if you tell the patient, okay, we're going to treat your diabetes a different way. Instead of giving you these medications, we're going to treat you with diet. We're going to change what you actually put in your mouth. Because if you limit your carbs, and you don't even have to go to zero carbs as in a strict carnivore, if you just decrease your carb intake significantly, you can reverse diabetes, type 2 diabetes. And I've seen this over and over again. But if you just follow what the mainstream advice is, if you follow the guidelines from, let's say, the American Diabetes Association, they have guidelines of what to eat. That's not a diet that's going to reverse diabetes, okay? It's just not. You can take a look at it for yourself. So going into medicine, I had the idea that I was going to be able to make a big impact on people's health. But what I found after going through my health challenges was that the current model of how medicine actually is being practiced does not do that. And we can affect so much more simply by changing what we eat, changing our lifestyle. That makes a big difference.
So I want to know more about your dietary journey. Can you talk about what you were eating when you were still a child?
Yeah, so I think, as is the case for just about every Asian on the planet, we started off eating rice. That was the case for me. I ate rice morning, afternoon, and night. I ate it 3, 4 times a day, and I was a big rice eater. I could eat 5 to 10 bowls of rice every meal. Of course, I would eat that along with, sure.
Did people praise you for eating a lot of rice? Because that's a thing here in Taiwan. Like people make you feel good if you can eat a lot of rice.
Yeah, it wasn't like discouraged. You
Uh,
know, the in Chinese, when you ask somebody if they've eaten, you say, "Have you eaten rice?" Right? You just say,
mm-hmm.
"Have you eaten rice?" That's the common greeting. It's rice. My parents never discouraged me from eating less. They just saw that I ate a lot of rice. My dad ate a lot of rice. He ate just as much as I did. So, and my brothers did. We all did, and it was a staple, as I think it is
Mm.
for most Asian families. And with that rice, I also ate a lot of vegetables. There was some meat, obviously. We ate some chicken, pork, fish, stuff like that. But majority was a lot of rice and vegetables. And of course,
Did,
noodles too. Noodles also came into the picture. Another grain that is not good for your health.
would it be fair to say there was less junk food at that time?
Growing up, that was a time when junk food started really exploding. Probably not to the same degree it is now, where there's just so much junk food. But there was plenty of junk food back when I was growing up. There were lots of bags of chips, a lot of candies. It was around, definitely around.
Did you eat a lot of that?
I ate I ate junk food usually when I wasn't home. And by junk food I mean like candy bars and cookies and things like that. I ate it usually when I was not at home, but when I was home I was eating mostly rice and vegetables. It wasn't until later that I really ate a lot more junk food.
I see. What did people teach you about vegetables and meat?
Growing up, people said eat more vegetables because that's what's healthy. And then people would say don't eat too much meat, especially red meat like beef, because red meat is dangerous for your health. It can cause heart attacks, it can cause cancers. And that's the common myth that most people have about red meat, even today.
Hmm. What about junk food? Did people feel negative about it at all?
Yeah, my mom would always tell me stop eating so much junk food, like the chips and the cookies and ice cream. I think most people understand that junk food's not good for you, and it's not. I mean, take a look at a cookie. What's in a cookie? It's loaded with sugar. It's loaded with flour that's used to make the cookie. It's made with seed oils as well. Seed oils is everywhere, and seed oils is something you really want to avoid. It's so prevalent. And when I talk about seed oils, I'm talking about, it's another term for vegetable oils. I'm talking about corn oil, I'm talking about soybean oil, I'm talking about canola oil. All these different oils, they lead to a lot of problems. They lead to chronic inflammation, they cause a lot of cellular damage, damages mitochondria, your metabolism gets shot. It's really something that needs to be avoided.
So, can you talk about why you started to eat a lot more junk food, like you mentioned?
So when I left my parents' house, okay, when I had a little freedom, when I went to college, basically I was living on my own. So now I had access to, now I was outside. I wasn't, I could eat junk food and not have my parents tell me stop eating that junk food, right? So that's what I did, and it just became something that I went to because once you start eating this kind of food, you feel a comfort to that food. Your brain gets hijacked. It's not that you're weak, okay? It's not that you don't have willpower to say, I know this is junk food and it's bad for me, I should stop. The reason you can't stop is because you can't help it. You don't have that much willpower. It's a battle against biology. These junk foods are made in such a way and they're designed by nutritional engineers. These are nutritional scientists that these big food companies they hire and they pay a lot of money. And their job is to make foods very addictive. That's why you don't just eat one chip, right? You're just not going to eat one chip. It's designed so that what's called a bliss point is reached. And that is when salt, sugar, and sweetness is in the correct proportions. And that's a bliss point they aim for to get you hooked on that junk food. So you think you're going to be able to battle these $1 million scientists who are paid to make you addicted to their food so that you can buy more and more? Good luck with that, okay? Uh, you just can't fight it. You can't fight against your own biology. Your dopamine pathways are affected. And in my case, I ate junk food for many, 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 many years, decades.
And was your next stage going carnivore, or you have tried other diets?
Over the years, I try to limit my junk food, decrease my junk food, and I was successful here and there. But after, so I developed a very serious carb addiction. Eating a lot of different grains like rice, pastas, bread, noodles. That combined with junk food, I was a very serious carb addict. And so what I wanted to do was eat healthier. And this is what I would do. I would eat more vegetables, more fruits, some fish, some chicken, and then that's considered healthy, right? And I would do that for weeks, maybe months, but then I would go back. I would slip and eat some junk food for about a week or two, and then I would go back. So I did this for many, many years, and eventually it caught up to me. In my 40s, all these different things that I will talk about if you want me to came about, and that's what triggered me to go down carnivore.
I see. Did you like meat growing up?
I did. Meat always tasted good to me. Whenever I had beef or pork, I always thought or always felt that this actually tastes good. But of course, you're told don't eat too much meat. It's not healthy. It's not good for you.
Would it be fair to say you weren't able to eat as much meat as you wanted?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
relatable. Yeah, so I would like to know why you eventually decided to go carnivore. So you can talk about some of your health struggles and what you came across.
Yeah. So eating the way I did for so many years, I would say 30, 40 years, in my 40s, I started having some health issues. I had arthritis in both knees, which I talked about. That was a big issue. Another issue was I had chronic fatigue. And chronic fatigue sounds like, oh, that's nothing. But really, when you have it, you have no energy. You have you can't do anything because you just want to take a nap or want to go to sleep or just put your head down because you just don't your body's not making ATP to give you energy to do things. And that's what I suffered from. So just imagine this. I was a doctor seeing patients, and by 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I was so tired that I didn't have enough energy to continue the rest of the day. So that was a big problem. I also had IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. I had gas, I had bloating. I would sometimes have diarrhea and constipation. And these are very uncomfortable symptoms. It's not going to kill you. It's no way to live. And I mentioned my serious carb addiction, which I battled for many years. And what that did to me was I wasn't overweight per se, but I would be anywhere from 20, 25 pounds heavier than I probably should. And so I didn't look good. I had a belly, but I wasn't like, you know, I was probably like skinny fat, you could say, but I wasn't like a big giant person. But I never felt good about my body because I was carrying extra weight. And so what I would do is every year I would do about one or two diets where I would cut calories. I would eat at a calorie deficit. And if you ever try dieting this way, it's very difficult because you're trying to limit how much food you eat, right? And when you eat, just say like some vegetables, and you're trying to stay under 1,500 calories or whatever it was that I was doing, you just don't have, you're not nourishing your body. So you feel crappy. Yeah, you lose weight because you're eating less calories, but it's not sustainable. You can't do this long term. It also messes up your metabolism. When you eat at a calorie deficit, it slows your metabolism. And you do that year after year, you're going to damage your metabolism. So I would lose weight, yes, but then I would put it back on. I go on a diet, lose weight. So I did this for many years. So very, very unhealthy way to eat. And then when I was 46, I got shingles. Shingles is adult chickenpox. People in their 60s, 70s, 80s, those people get shingles. People who have weak immune systems, they get shingles. Not a man in his 40s. I see patients get shingles when they're very old, not someone like me. So that really, you could say, broke the camel's back. That woke me up. I was thinking, what am I doing wrong here? I'm telling people to eat healthier, eat more vegetables, eat more fruits. Don't overeat. Don't eat too much meat. That's what I'm doing. And look, I got shingles at 46, and I'm suffering from all these different symptoms that are not curable. So that made me just rethink everything. And eventually, I did keto for 2 months. And it was great because it gave me energy back again. See, I could now actually complete a day without taking a nap or feeling I was exhausted and defeated. And I felt like, maybe there's some hope. There's something to this keto. But still, I had arthritis in my knees. I still had these gut symptoms from IBS. And I was still addicted to carbs. I was craving to eat carbohydrates. That's how powerful they are. So I was like, maybe I should go all the way. Why not? I've seen all these videos on YouTube how carnivore is so amazing for many people. Let's do it. And when I did, everything, it was like I was born again. It's just, it just opened my eyes to everything. Because for me, carnivore, in a sense, gave me new life. Because now my energy improved that much more. All my gut symptoms, they disappeared. Arthritis in my knees disappeared. And I didn't have that. It didn't completely take away my cravings for carbs because I battled it for so many years. But it went away eventually. It took about a year into carnivore, where now I have no cravings for it. But carnivore really saved my life. It gave me back my life. And that's why I'm so grateful about it. And that's why I like talking about it.
So let me ask you this. What do you think is stopping most doctors from having the epiphany you had when you realized that, oh, I'm not very healthy at 40 already?
I think, unfortunately, for a lot of people, not even just doctors, anybody, you just ask anybody, they'll think you're crazy if you say, oh, you know, you eat meat only, that's it, right? That's probably most people's reaction. It's unless you experience it yourself. Until you actually experience the power of it, you don't really understand. Because I like to use this example.
Yeah, so I think you first start to question if your perspectives are actually legit, right? Because apparently you weren't in a very healthy spot. So why are there not more doctors that feel like this, in your opinion? Question their current understanding.
That's a good question, because if you take a look at doctors, I'm not saying all, but there's quite a few doctors who are not very healthy looking. Just from the external, you can tell they're overweight, they're on a bunch of medications. Obviously, not every doctor, but there are quite a few. And so you think, okay, maybe these doctors who have health issues want to try something different. But I think what it takes is maybe some sort of health crisis, some sort of health challenge. As in my case, when I got shingles, that just wakes you up to your core. It's like you're not supposed to get shingles at 46. So maybe that's what it takes. I don't know. I wish I had the answer to that, but I really don't know.
I see. Okay. And when you first found out about keto, did you think it was crazy at all?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty crazy too.
Oh.
'Cause, I mean, a keto diet is high fat, moderate protein, and low carbs. Depending on which keto diet you follow, it's you're limiting yourself anywhere from 20 grams of carbs to 50 grams of carbs a day. Carnivore is essentially zero carbs. So keto, you can still have some carbs, but not a lot, right? Whereas a typical standard diet, you're eating 3, 4, 500 grams of carbs a day. That's quite a bit. So it's quite a reduction. And when I looked at keto, I was like, well, how am I going to get in all my vegetables and fruits that I need? How can I get my grains? Because if you look at the food pyramid, they recommend that you get 5 to 11 servings of grains and cereals. That's a lot of carbs, right? So I was thinking, how am I going to get all the, I need to eat oatmeal. How am I going to get the carbs to fit in on keto? So in that sense, I thought, wow, this is quite different. I'm in for a rude awakening, which I was.
And how did you find out about keto?
I've heard about it because keto is it's not mainstream, but it's fairly widely accepted here in the States. Most people know about keto. In fact, there's a big industry around keto. They sell keto bars, they sell keto brownies. Now, this is dirty keto. This is not the true keto diet. What the keto industry now is, it's a what I mean when I say keto diet, you want to stick to the true ketogenic diet where you really limit your carbs to 20 to 30 grams of carbs a day. But nowadays, when people talk about keto, there's keto cookies, there's keto brownies, because a lot of these food companies, they're making these keto snacks and keto foods. That's not real keto. Okay, you're just adding different stuff. It's not keto. So, but I'm sorry, I went off track. What was your question again?
Yeah, I just want to know if there was any inspiration that made you want to
Oh yeah,
try keto.
yeah. It was basically me getting shingles and trying to find something that was different that would work. And the keto was different enough than the standard diet. And in my mind, what if I've been wrong? What if we're not supposed to eat so many carbohydrates? So that's what led me to do it.
Oh, you just wanted to give it a try, it sounds like, because
I
you
wanted to give it a
didn't
try
try it
because
before.
it was radically different than what I've been doing for most of my life.
Mm, I see. And obviously, after you went carnivore, right now you are much healthier now. You used to have a bunch of health issues. What would you say is the most annoying health issue you used to have?
Oh, jeez, it's got to be the IBS. It's got to be gas and bloating. Just because, just imagine you're sitting down, and let's say I'm talking to patients in a clinic day, and I'm talking to patients in the office all day, and I have gas, right? I'm eating just whatever the standard diet. In the past, I was eating a standard diet, and then I have a lot of gas, but I have 4 hours straight where I don't have time. So yeah, so imagine you have to hold it in, and in the meantime work throughout that time. It's very uncomfortable.
Mm.
Uh, but I would say the biggest difference maker is the chronic fatigue. Uh, Now having energy, not having the chronic fatigue anymore, because now I can do things. Now I have energy. I have hope. I have dreams. There's things I can do because when you have no energy, you don't care about anything else. All you want is to have energy. Just think like a day when you're super tired and you're just like, oh, I can't deal with this because I'm just so tired. I just need to go to sleep. It's like it's let's say like you've been up for 20 hours straight. It's like what you're dealing with when you have chronic fatigue. You're just like so tired. You know, your priority is just to get energy.
Mm. Are there some things like videos that made you believe in carnivore a lot more?
Well, I think just like a lot of people when they first go into carnivore, look into it, I started watching quite a few YouTube videos from Dr. Ken Berry. He has a very big channel, and he's put out a lot of videos, which have been very helpful. He has very good content. I also watch quite a bit from Dr. Anthony Shafee, Dr. Sean Baker, um, and then I've seen the clips of or the videos of Michaela Peterson, how she was able to heal her autoimmune issues as well as depression and anxiety from a lion diet, which is even more strict than a carnivore diet. So all those were very educational as well as inspirational.
Mm. And I think you didn't really mention what kind of symptoms you will have if you have shingles. So can you kind of talk about that?
Yeah, so shingles is reactivation of a virus called varicella. It's the varicella zoster virus. And it reactivates usually when your immune system is weakened, when you have a lot of stress. And so what you'll develop is a very painful rash. And for me, it was a very painful rash inside my arm here. You can still see you probably, I don't know if you can see it, but I still have scars on the inside. It was just basically running down my arm, and it's a very painful rash. And it's like very small vesicles uh, bunched up, and they bunch up in a rash in a kind of a dermatomal pattern, a nerve pattern. And fortunately for me, it wasn't a type of shingles that affected my eyes. There's some people who can actually get blind if it affects the nerve in the eye. So there can be other serious forms. Other people get it in the back. But it's usually something that will go away after weeks. Sometimes the pain from shingles um, can linger on after the virus has already gone away, after the lesions have already healed. That's known as post. It's a post pain syndrome that some people have. Luckily for me, I healed from it. I think in about 2 3 weeks completely. But it's not something you want to go through. It's very painful.
Hmm, I see. So, are there some other things that Carnivore helped you with that you would like to talk about now?
There's so many things. Besides all the different symptoms that healed, my mental clarity is a lot better. I can think clearer. My memory's improved. When I had the chronic fatigue, I had brain fog. And yes, I could still function as a doctor, make diagnoses, prescribe medications, listen to patients, and put things together okay enough. But now my brain power is so much better. I think much clearer, it's more efficient. It's just as if I turned back the clock when I was younger. I can think clearer, I'm more sharp. That's a very big benefit. I feel a lot younger. You know, you just it's a big difference. When in my 40s, I felt like an old man. I know maybe you can't relate to it because you're very young, Mr. Eggman. But for me, in my 40s, that's not considered quite middle age. I think middle age is considered 50, right? Is that how it is in Taiwan? 50? Yeah, so I was getting close to middle age, but usually by your 40s, you start feeling, some people start feeling old. And for me, I felt like I was very old. My dad would tell me, I would complain to my dad, I'm feeling kind of old in my 40s. And he was like, and my dad was 70s, in his 70s at the time. And he said, just wait till you get my age. I'm like, oh my God, if I get to 70, I don't think I'll have any I won't have any energy left. But I feel like a lot younger uh, than I had in my 40s. What other benefits? I just feel more patient. In the past, I would say more anxious. Didn't have patience, believe it or not, to actually listen to a lot of people, which I know is bad for being a doctor. You have to be able to listen to people, hear what they're saying. But I was very impatient and I was a little anxious. I think they go hand in hand. When you're less anxious, you have more patience. And so that's another benefit I noticed on carnivore. I never get sick anymore. I haven't got sick. No codes, nothing. It's just incredible. It's not that I got sick a lot when I was younger, but every year or two I would get a cold or the flu. It doesn't happen anymore.
Okay, so I have a question about doctors. So I guess it's relatively common for people in the meat-based diet space to say that doctors they don't get a lot of education about nutrition when they are studying. So I want you to think back when you were still studying to become a doctor. Was that the case for you?
It's the same for every doctor. I think the average doctor gets about 20 hours of nutrition in medical school. So it's not a lot. There's some doctors who get 0 hours of nutrition. But even if you get education on nutrition, what are you going to learn? They're going to teach you that they're going to teach you to follow the dietary guidelines. You're supposed to eat lots of vegetables and fruits, eat your cereals and grains, right? So does it really matter if you're being taught the nutrition from the mainstream narrative? That's not the nutrition you want to learn. You're going to have to learn nutrition on your own.
So what are your thoughts on this phenomenon?
This phenomenon of doctors not getting nutritional education. As I said, if it depends. I mean, it'd be great if doctors got education on nutrition, but it has to be the proper nutrition. the nutrition that a human, the nutrition for an appropriate human diet, not the nutrition of the modern food matrix. See, the nutrition that's being taught now is based on what the big food industries and big pharma want you to believe is nutritious. They think that if you continue eating the vegetables, the grains, all the different things that they make money from, then yeah, let's give out more nutrition education if doctors can promote this type of nutrition. But if you're talking about the nutrition that actually makes a human healthy, then it has to be a different nutrition education.
Hmm. Makes sense. So, can I ask you if you still work in a hospital now?
Currently, I don't. I did for quite a few years. I've had enough time in the hospital. It's it's a good experience, but again, what you see in the hospital is no different than what you see out in the clinic or what you might see out in skilled nursing facilities. It's all the same. It's chronic disease that you see every day. So chronic disease costs this country, and I'm sure just about every country in the world, more money to manage than anything else. It costs more than emergency care. It costs more than end of life care. Because when you go to a hospital, what is it that you're going to see? You're going to see a flare up of the chronic disease. So it could be a COPD exacerbation. It could be a heart attack. Okay, it's heart disease that's flared up. It could be an asthma attack. It's your asthma. It's a chronic disease that's flared up. In the clinic, you're seeing these chronic diseases, but they're not quite flared up. It's the same thing. You're seeing chronic disease. And so whether it's in the hospital setting or the outpatient setting, you're seeing chronic diseases mostly. And that's what I see as an internal medicine doctor.
Can you talk about what kind of patients did you used to receive?
What kind of patients? Well, most of them, like I said, are chronic disease. So the most common ones in the hospital I'll see is a complication from diabetes. Okay, so one of them is DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis. That's when their blood sugar is uncontrolled and they need insulin, right? That's usually type 1 diabetics. But type 2s, they go into what's called a HHS, a hyperosmolar hyperketotic state. That's when blood sugars can go as high as 1,000 or even more. And in that case, they need some serious attention with fluids and also insulin drip. But their blood sugars are uncontrolled. Their diabetes are uncontrolled. Also see heart attacks. How do you get heart attacks? It's not from LDL cholesterol, okay? There's a lot of things that cause a heart attack. LDL cholesterol is one factor, but it's not even one of the top factors. You have to look at other things that are a better predictor of heart attacks. Chronic inflammation, damage to the arteries that lead to these heart attacks. Smoking is a big cause of that. But damage from what? Seed oils, chronic inflammation, insulin resistance. So heart attacks, strokes. A stroke is basically a heart attack in the brain. These are another acute episode of chronic diseases. I see heart failure patients. COPD, like I said, that stands for chronic obstructive lung disease. It's similar to asthma, but not the same. It's an obstructive lung disease. And then infections like pneumonia. Why do people get infections? They don't have strong immune systems. Why don't they have strong immune systems? The foods that they eat weakens their immune system. So you got to start thinking, what is the underlying cause of all these problems? Why do people come to hospitals? In the majority of cases, it's diet and lifestyle.
So, can you talk about how did you usually help your patients? And what do you think about that right now?
Well, it's mostly medicines, right? It's medicines. So let me give you some examples. So for a type 2 diabetic who has HHS and they need an insulin drip, So it's insulin. That's how you treat them. You give them a lot of IV fluids, you give them insulin. That's medication. Okay. Heart attack, what are you going to do? Depending if they have a blockage in the heart artery, then they might have to go to the cath lab and have a stent placed. But how are you going to treat that? You're going to prescribe an aspirin. You're going to prescribe a statin. You're going to prescribe a beta blocker, maybe an ACE, maybe an ARB. You're prescribing medications. COPD, okay? They have trouble breathing. What are you going to do? You're going to give them some inhalers, some medications. So all these are treated with medications. That's the main, other than surgery, you prescribe medications to treat these chronic conditions. And how effective are they? They'll get them out of the acute exacerbation. Yes, they'll stabilize the patient. But like I said, are you going to actually reverse, make a major improvement in the patient's disease course with these medications? You're not. You're just managing symptoms. So unfortunately, the current medical model does not address the root cause of diseases. And that's why patients, they stay alive, yes. Okay? So maybe that's what medicine is good at. It's good at lengthening life. But what about quality of life? It's not very good. Who wants to take 10, 15 medications a day to live a poor quality of life? What kind of life is that?
So, Dr. Samhai, as a doctor that promotes a carnivore diet, do you think it's challenging in any way?
Challenging as far as what? Convincing
Just
other people? What do you mean?
it can be anything.
Yeah, it's very challenging to, definitely challenging to convince people because it's considered extreme. The mainstream diet that most doctors, health experts, mainstream media, most people think that carnivore is extreme and that the healthy diet is a plant-based diet. That's what's considered healthy. Just think about it. Most of the food companies are mostly plant-based. And there's a lot of money behind that. So when you go against that and you recommend a diet that's meat-based, what are you actually doing? You're going to take somebody away from the big food companies. You're taking away their customers. And if you hit them in the wallet, they're not going to go down quietly. It's a huge business. It's a well-oiled machine. I'm not just talking about the big food companies. Just think about big pharma, who makes all the different pills and medications to manage all these chronic conditions. They make trillions of dollars every year in revenue globally. So this year, big pharma is going to make they're projected to make $1.8 trillion in global revenue. I didn't say billion. I said trillion. Okay, that's a lot of money. I don't know. I can't count that high, but I know it's a lot. Okay, so just to manage all these chronic diseases, and if you think you're going to come in and start recommending a carnivore diet and reversing type 2 diabetes and reversing all these different chronic diseases and taking away all these medications and all that revenue they're generating, you're naive. It's not going to happen without a fight, a big fight. So people have to wake up and take the power in their own hands to improve their health themselves, because these big food companies and big pharma, they don't care about you. They care about themselves. They want to make more money. So do it for yourself. No one else is going to do it for you.
Yeah, I appreciate the fact that you have the courage to go against the grain. I think there should be more people like you.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think more people need to speak up about it, especially, consider I've lived the transformation. It's my own personal experience. And so I feel it's like my duty to spread the word and make more people aware. And you're doing the same thing by what you're doing, interviewing people, putting out content, making it fun. You're Mr. Eggman. People are going to pay attention to you. And I know you're spreading it in your part of the world, but it's The world is global now. With the internet, you're going everywhere. So you're helping a lot of people all around the world, which is tremendous.
Hmm. Nice. So can you kind of talk about what do people around you eat?
That's a mixed bag, and I think that's the case for a lot of people. Like family, close family, they uh, they don't eat what I eat, um, and I think it comes from until something unfortunately bad happens, they just don't see a need to change, and also they've been brainwashed from the propaganda that has been spread for so many years that you want to avoid meat, you want to eat vegetables, you want to eat fruit. So that's in the back of their head. That's a big part. And also, um, when you talk to other people, I've tried to change some of my family to eat more meat. But when you talk about diet, it's like talking about religion or politics, right? People get offended. They're very sensitive to it. So really, uh, you don't really want to bring it up. I mean, you want to bring it up to help them, but you're gonna get pushback because it's just a sensitive thing. And so the way I approach it is there'll be a time for everything. That it's God forbid something terrible happens to my family and they have to listen to me. But what am I gonna do? You have free will. You can't force somebody to do what they're not ready for or what they don't see as being beneficial. So it'll come in time. And then, with people that I don't know, you have to approach it again carefully. You don't just want to say, "Hey, you got to go carnivore. You have to, you have to eat meat because you're messing up your health eating all these vegetables and fruits." They'll think you're crazy, right? So, but there's people out there who are ready for it, and then you kind of know. And then in that case, if they're open to it, then it's much easier to have a good conversation and get them to do what's good for them.
Do you have a family member that you really wish they could go carnivore? If I want you to choose one.
A family member, my mom. I wish she could. She has some very bad arthritis, and she's also diabetic as well. I wish I could really convince her to, but uh, she's she's in her 70s, and she's very stubborn. So I'm still working on her, but you know, what am I going to do?
Hmm. I see. So, Dr. Senhai, I know you have a school community. Can you kind of tell people what the community is about?
Yeah, so I started a community. I think it was about a month and a half ago. Just a small group. Just started it. A group of mostly carnivores. Um, and I'm not, I'm carnivore because I have to be, but I, it's not that I'm saying you have to be carnivore. I think the less carbs you eat, the healthier you'll be. There's some people who can thrive either on keto or low carb. And if that's the case, that's fantastic. But for me, I have to be carnivore. And this community is for people who are mostly meat based, but most of them are carnivore. And it's good to have a group of people who are like minded, who need other people around them who are also meat based, carnivore. Because, like me, my family not being carnivore, sometimes it's easy to maybe slip up or you don't have the support, right? And so when you have a community, it's good to have others there who can support you, who can hold you accountable. And I also have weekly calls there where we get together and talk, and we talk about carnivore, answer questions, try to troubleshoot some issues. Because sometimes going on carnivore, things come up, right? Whether it's electrolyte issues, maybe it's detox, especially when you're starting. If you're coming from a standard diet, going into carnivore, you might have what's called the carnivore flu. Are you eating the right amount of proteins to fats? What's your goal? Are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to heal disease? So there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and the community is a very good thing for that.
Nice. So I know you have interviewed many people. Is there an interview that's your favorite that you have created, and why?
Yeah, I'm gonna say, let me just say I'm thankful for all those who interviewed with me, and there's been some great stories. You as well, Leo, some great stories. But you're asking me for one, and I will say that I did an interview with Charlie early on. I think he was my second interview, and he was a man. He's a man in his 40s. He lost over 180 pounds, and his testosterone is greater than 1500. So for those who don't know what testosterone levels are for a man, the average testosterone for a man in his 40s in the United States is about 400. That's low. When you have a testosterone of 400, you're going to have symptoms of low test, which are fatigue, low libido, um, just not feeling like a man, okay? Low testosterone. Charlie, testosterone level was over 1500, which you can only get from usually injecting steroids. This is considered a supraphysiological level of testosterone. And that's amazing. He has incredible energy. He's lost a lot of weight. He looks tremendous. He's, was he diabetic? I forget. But he's been able to improve so much. His numbers, he has quite a few labs, and his numbers back it up. So I would say that interview is one of my favorites for sure.
Nice. Okay, so we are coming to an end. Let me just ask you a couple more little questions. So,
Sure.
do you think there are some people you think I should interview in the me-based data space?
Some people you should interview. Gosh, I haven't done that many interviews, but if I were you, obviously I would love to interview someone like Dr. Ken Berry. He's he's been part of the community for so long. He's been doing it for so long. I don't know how long his YouTube channel has been around. I think it's been around for what, 8, 9, 10 years or something like that. If you can get a hold of Dr. Sean Baker, he's considered the first carnivore. I think he did an interview with Joe Rogan in 2017, which really kind of started the movement. That's when it really took off. I would love to interview him one day. Uh, but yeah, there's a guest that I interview by the name of Sally. She has a great story. She had these crazy allergies in her eyes, and she would require steroid shots. And she went carnivore and was able to reverse her symptoms. She had quite a bit. And if you want, I could connect you with her if you want to interview her.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'll look into her story and then see
Yeah,
how I
yeah,
can contact her, stuff like that. Maybe I'll ask you for your help.
yeah, no problem.
So, do you have any tips on making interviews?
Tips on making interviews. I'm an amateur. I don't know if you should be asking me for tips. I just started
I
my
feel like
YouTube
everyone has
channel.
their some good insights.
Well, thank you. I started my YouTube channel in June. So it's only been about 3 months since I've been doing YouTube. And before that, I didn't have any social media. So all this is new to me. And I don't think I'm a very good interviewer. I just try to listen to what people are saying and see if what they're saying I could follow up on and ask pertinent questions, if that would help the audience. Because I'm always thinking about the audience. What can I ask that perhaps an audience member wants to know about? Because when someone is watching your video, they're probably looking at me and say, Dr. Sam, why don't you ask him this? Right? So I'm trying to think, what is it that the audience actually wants to know about? So I don't know if that might help or not, but I always try to keep the audience in mind.
Nice. So, this is our last question. If you could go back to when you first became a doctor, what kind of advice would you want to tell that version of your past self?
Maybe question everything more. Don't just willingly accept everything that you hear, everything that they teach you, because if you look throughout history, what is considered mainstream and normal has been proven not to be the case. You can just look back in the 1930s, 1940s. Smoking was considered healthy, smoking cigarettes. Doctors endorsed it. Doctors smoked cigarettes in hospitals. It was widely accepted. But we now know it's very unhealthy. There was a gentleman by the name of Semmelweis way back in the day, I think 1800s, or was it early 1900s? I forget. But he was an OB-GYN, obstetrician. And he endorsed washing your hands because what happened during that time was that a lot of the deliveries were complicated by infections. And a lot of the mothers, they couldn't get through childbirth. And so he endorsed that. But all the doctors during that time were like, oh, you're crazy. This is hogwash. You don't need to wash your hands, right? But of course, we now know that you should wash your hands. So, question everything because even what you think is true now in 10, 20 years, maybe isn't.
This is a nice message. So, Dr. Samhai, that's it for this interview. Thank you very much for taking the time to do this with me.
Absolutely, Leo. It's a pleasure talking with you. I know your YouTube channel and all that you're doing is going to go very far. So best of luck to you, and thanks very much for having me.
So, for those that are listening, comment down below what you think about this interview. And like always, there is a playlist on my channel that has all the interviews I've done. So, go watch all of them. Yeah, with that said, see you guys.
Bye, guys.